The text message appeared on Rachel's phone at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I never stopped thinking about you. 15 years. That's how long it had been since she'd heard from Emma. 15 years since they'd walked away from each other, convinced that love wasn't enough. 15 years of building separate lives, marrying other people, becoming who they thought they were supposed to be. But some loves don't fade, they wait. And on that ordinary Tuesday night, sitting alone in her kitchen with a glass of wine and a heart full of regrets, Rachel realized that the greatest love story of her life wasn't over. It was just beginning. Rachel met Emma at a corporate training seminar in Seattle, back when they were both 28 and ambitious, hungry for success and terrified of their own hearts. Emma had walked into the conference room wearing a navy blazer and confidence that made Rachel's breath catch. They were paired together for a team-building exercise, and within an hour, they were finishing each other's sentences and sharing the kind of laugh that makes your stomach hurt. The attraction was immediate and terrifying. Rachel had dated men exclusively, had a boyfriend waiting for her back in Portland, had a life plan that didn't include falling for a woman with green eyes and a smile that felt like coming home. Emma was more experienced with her sexuality, but no less scared. She'd been hurt before, had learned to guard her heart, had promised herself she wouldn't fall for another straight girl who was just experimenting. But love doesn't care about your plans, or your fears, or your carefully constructed defenses. They spent the entire week together, professional by day and increasingly intimate by night. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into long walks along the waterfront. Walks turned into conversations that lasted until sunrise, where they shared their dreams, their wounds, their secret selves that they'd never shown anyone else. On the last night of the seminar, sitting on a bench overlooking Elliott Bay, Emma reached for Rachel's hand. It was the simplest gesture, fingers intertwining, but it felt like an earthquake. Rachel didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned her head on Emma's shoulder and whispered, "I don't know what this is, but I don't want it to end." They kissed under the stars that night, and Rachel felt something click into place inside her chest, like a key turning in a lock she hadn't known existed. Everything made sense suddenly. All the relationships that had felt wrong, all the times she'd felt like she was performing rather than living it, all made sense now. They tried to make it work. For 2 beautiful, complicated years, they tried. Weekend visits between Portland and Seattle, phone calls that lasted for hours, plans for a future where they'd finally live in the same city, build a life together, stop hiding from their families and colleagues. But fear is a powerful thing. Rachel's parents were conservative, religious, Emma's career was at a critical juncture, and she wasn't ready to come out at work. The distance felt impossible, the secrecy felt suffocating, and slowly, painfully, they began to drift apart. The breakup was mutual, mature, and absolutely devastating. They told each other it was for the best, that they wanted different things, that the timing wasn't right. They promised to stay friends, knowing they wouldn't. And on a rainy afternoon in March, they said goodbye. Rachel married David 3 years after leaving Emma. He was kind, stable, successful, everything she was supposed to want. He was a good man who loved her in his careful, measured way. Their wedding was beautiful, traditional, exactly what her parents had always dreamed of for their daughter, and Rachel smiled through it all, pushing down the voice inside that kept whispering, "This isn't right." The marriage lasted 11 years. They had good moments, trips to Europe, dinner parties with friends, comfortable routines that felt like contentment if you didn't look too closely. But there was always something missing. Some essential spark that Rachel couldn't name, couldn't explain, couldn't find no matter how hard she tried. David deserved better than someone who was only half present, who disappeared into her own head during intimate moments, who sometimes cried in the shower for reasons she couldn't articulate. When they finally divorced, it was amicable and sad. He told her, "I always felt like you were waiting for someone else." He was right. Emma's path was different but equally complicated. She came out at work and lost a promotion because of it. She dated women openly, fell in love twice, had her heart broken both times. She moved to San Francisco, then to New York, chasing career opportunities and running from the ghost of what she'd had with Rachel. She never married, but she built a successful consulting business, traveled the world, became the confident, self-assured woman she'd always wanted to be. On paper, her life was impressive. In reality, she was lonely. Every woman she dated was measured against a memory, and none of them quite measured up. Both women threw themselves into therapy, into self-help books, into yoga and meditation, and all the things you're supposed to do when you're trying to heal. They learned about themselves, grew in important ways, became more authentic versions of who they were. But neither of them could quite shake the feeling that they'd made a terrible mistake all those years ago. Rachel moved through her 40s with a growing sense of urgency. She dated women now, finally honest about who she was, but the connections felt superficial. Everyone seemed to want something casual, and Rachel wanted everything. She wanted the kind of love that kept you up all night talking, that made you laugh until you couldn't breathe, that felt like home. Emma, at 43, had started to make peace with the idea that maybe she'd already had her great love and lost it. Maybe that was just how life worked sometimes. Maybe you got one shot at the real thing, and if you didn't grab it, it was gone forever. On a sleepless night, scrolling through old photos on her laptop, Emma found herself staring at a picture of Rachel from 15 years ago. They were at a beach somewhere, Rachel laughing at something Emma had said, the sun in her hair, joy radiating from every pixel. Emma's chest ached with the weight of all that lost time. She opened a new message and typed, before she could stop herself, "I never stopped thinking about you." Then she hit send and waited, terrified for her past to become her present. Rachel stared at her phone for 20 minutes before responding. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was racing. 15 years of carefully maintained distance, obliterated by 12 words on a screen. She typed and deleted at least 10 responses. Who is this? Too cold, and she knew exactly who it was. I'm married. She wasn't anymore. Please don't contact me. The opposite of what her heart was screaming. Finally, she settled on, Emma, it's been so long. The response came immediately. Too long. Can we talk? Really talk? They started with a phone call that was supposed to last 30 minutes and went on for 4 hours. They talked about everything and nothing, their careers, their failed relationships, their therapist's insights, their favorite books, the ways they'd changed, and the ways they'd stayed exactly the same. Emma had quit her corporate job and started her own diversity consulting firm. She was helping companies create inclusive cultures, doing work that mattered, making a difference. Her voice lit up when she talked about it, and Rachel could hear the woman she'd fallen in love with all those years ago, still fighting for what was right, still passionate and driven and brilliant. Rachel had gone back to school and become a therapist herself, specializing in LGBTQ+ issues and late life coming out. She helped people navigate the same journey she'd taken, and it brought her a sense of purpose she'd never found in her corporate marketing career. She'd found her calling in her own struggle. We both became ourselves, Emma said softly. We both did the work. We did, Rachel agreed, but I wish we could have done it together. The silence that followed was heavy with possibility. Finally, Emma asked, why couldn't we? It was the question they'd both been avoiding, the one that had haunted them for 15 years. Why had they given up? Why had they let fear win? Why had they chosen the easier, lonelier path instead of fighting for what they had? Rachel took a deep breath. I was terrified of my parents' rejection, of being different, of not knowing who I was. I thought if I could just be normal, if I could fit into the life everyone expected, I'd be happy eventually. Were you? Emma asked gently. Never. Not for one single day. Rachel's voice cracked. I spent 15 years pretending, Emma, and the whole time, I was comparing everyone to you. No one ever came close. Emma was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face 3,000 miles away. I thought you chose him over me. I thought I wasn't enough to make you brave. You were everything, Rachel said fiercely. That was the problem. You made me feel so much, and I didn't know how to handle it. I couldn't handle loving you that much and being that scared at the same time. They talked through the night, peeling back layers of hurt and misunderstanding, finding their way back to each other one honest word at a time. They video called as the sun came up, and seeing Emma's face after all those years made Rachel's heart stop and start again. I want to see you, Emma said, in person. I need to know if this is real or if we're just two lonely middle-aged women romanticizing the past. Rachel laughed, wiping away tears. How about this weekend? Rachel met Emma at a coffee shop in Portland on a Saturday morning in October. She arrived 20 minutes early, changed her outfit 3 times in the car, and seriously considered driving away at least twice. What if Emma had changed completely? What if the chemistry was gone? What if they'd built this up in their minds and the reality was disappointing? Then Emma walked through the door, and all of Rachel's fears evaporated. She looked different, obviously, with a few threads of silver in her dark hair. lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before, but she was still Emma, still beautiful, still the woman who had cracked Rachel's heart wide open and never really left. Their eyes met across the crowded cafe, and they both smiled, tentative, nervous, full of hope. Emma crossed the room, and then she was standing right there, real and solid and present in a way that texts and phone calls could never capture. "Hi," Emma said, her voice soft and full of wonder. "Hi," Rachel replied, and suddenly they were hugging, holding on tight, breathing each other in like oxygen after drowning. They spent the entire day together, walking through Washington Park, sitting by the rose garden, talking and laughing and occasionally falling into comfortable silences that felt like home. The connection was still there, stronger, actually, deepened by time and experience and all the ways they'd both grown. Emma told her about the years of therapy, the work she'd done to build self-worth that didn't depend on anyone else's approval. Rachel shared her journey of coming out to her parents, difficult but ultimately okay, building her practice, learning to be alone without being lonely. "We're different people now," Rachel observed as they sat on a bench overlooking the city. "Better people," Emma agreed, "strong enough to do this right." "Are we doing this?" Rachel asked, her heart in her throat. "Is that what's happening here?" Emma turned to face her fully, taking both of Rachel's hands in hers. "I don't know what this becomes, but I know I can't walk away from you again. I did that once, and it was the biggest mistake of my life. I'm not making it twice." Rachel felt tears streaming down her face. "I'm scared." "Me too," Emma said, "but I'm more scared of living the rest of my life wondering what if." They kissed as the sun set over Portland. And it felt like time travel, like being 28 again, but with all the wisdom of their 40s. It felt like coming home to a place you'd forgotten existed. It felt like the beginning of everything. That night, Emma extended her trip. One weekend became a week became two. They took it slow this time, learning each other again, discovering who they'd become, marveling at how well they still fit together. They went on proper dates, movies, a cooking class where they laughed so hard they got kicked out. They stayed up late talking about their fears, their hopes, what they wanted for their futures. And slowly, carefully, they began to build something new on the foundation of what they'd once had. The decision to try again wasn't made in one dramatic moment. It was made in 1,000 small choices. Emma extending her trip again, Rachel clearing space in her closet, both of them deciding that long distance was worth it this time because they were worth it. Emma flew back to New York, but they video called every night. They visited each other every other weekend. They talked about logistics, about where they could both live, about how to build a shared life. When they'd spent so long building separate ones, the difference was that they were both finally ready. They'd done the inner work. They'd lived enough life to know what mattered and what didn't. They'd learned that love without bravery is just wishing, and they were both finally brave enough to reach for what they wanted. 6 months after that first text message, Emma gave notice to her clients and started the process of relocating to Portland. Rachel helped her apartment hunt, imagining Emma in each space, picturing their future in square footage and morning light. They moved in together on a rainy April afternoon, and it felt surreal and perfect and terrifyingly right. They were both in their mid-40s, blending lives that had been separate for so long, learning to share space and make compromises and choose each other every single day. It wasn't always easy. They had to navigate different communication styles, different approaches to money and cleanliness, and how to spend Sunday mornings. Emma liked to plan everything. Rachel was more spontaneous. Rachel needed more alone time. Emma was naturally more social, but they talked through every conflict. They went to couples therapy proactively, not waiting for things to fall apart. They learned each other's triggers and tender spots. They chose patience and curiosity over defensiveness and blame. Rachel's parents came around slowly, won over by seeing their daughter genuinely happy for the first time in her adult life. Emma's friends threw them an engagement party before they were even engaged, so confident in this love that had survived everything. 1 year after Emma moved to Portland, they got married in a small ceremony in their backyard, surrounded by the people who'd watched them find their way back to each other. Rachel wore a white dress. Emma wore a navy suit. They both cried through their vows. "I loved you at 28, Rachel said, holding Emma's hands and looking into her eyes. "I loved you through 15 years of absence, but I love you most right now, at 44, knowing exactly who you are and who I am, and choosing this anyway, choosing this because of it." Emma's vows were simple and perfect. You were always the one. I just had to become the person brave enough to keep you. Now, in their late 40s, they've built the life they always dreamed of. Emma runs her consulting business from their home office. Rachel still has her practice, helping others find the courage they once lacked. They host dinner parties, take long walks, travel when they can, and still stay up too late talking about everything and nothing. They have a framed photo from that first week in Seattle, both of them young and uncertain, and falling in love without knowing how to catch themselves. Next to it is a photo from their wedding, both of them laughing, finally certain, finally home. Do you ever regret the lost time? Rachel asked Emma recently, curled up on the couch on a Sunday morning. Emma considered it. I regret the pain we both went through, but I don't regret the growth. We weren't ready then. We are now. Rachel kissed her softly. We're definitely ready now. Rachel and Emma's story could have ended 15 years ago with a goodbye and a lifetime of what if. Instead, it's a testament to the fact that some loves are worth the wait, the work, and the courage it takes to try again. The truth is, they almost didn't get their second chance. Emma almost didn't send that text. Rachel almost didn't respond. Both of them almost let fear win again, but they didn't. And that made all the difference. If you're reading this and thinking about someone you let go, someone you've never forgotten, someone who still makes your heart skip when you see their name, maybe it's time to be brave. Maybe it's time to send the text, make the call, take the chance. Life is too short to live in the land of what if, and love, real love, is too rare to walk away from twice. What about you? Is there a love story you thought was over? Share your experience in the comments below. Or, if this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late for a second chance at happiness.